Pull on up a chair. You're at Camp Video Games, y'all.
Well, hello there, and welcome to Camp Video Games. This is a podcast that explores video games and their multimedia adaptations. I'm Junior Camp Counselor Sean. That's Junior Camp Counselor Josh.
Hey, what's up, Junior Camp Counselors? This is Camp Counselor Josh. No, you're the campers. I'm the Junior Counselor. Point is, when you're out in the woods at night and a bird spots you, once it's locked on, you're dead. Don't even try to run. Just accept your fate and fall down a endless pit of doom and die, because that's just how the world works. You could try walking back 3 feet and coming back. There's going to be another bird. You can try it again and again. There's always going to be another bird. Okay, so just accept that. And anyway,
campers, don't keep corn in your pockets. The birds love it.
Yeah,
and they hate you.
Or your father's dragon sword.
Oh my god, I love it. We're talking Ninja Gaiden, the NES 1988 title that most people played for about 5 minutes and said, "This is too dang hard. I ain't got no dang patience for this."
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But good golly, you're talking with two fellas who beat the game.
And have the modern technology of emulation and save states and rewind.
Yeah, for sure.
Big time.
Big time. Oh, and we're also going to talk our way through the 1991 Japan exclusive anime OVA just called Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
We'll double check that name before we get to that part. But anyways, Ninja Gaiden. There's the NES title.
Yes.
That most of us are familiar with. And there's an arcade title. And I've never played the arcade title. I don't know if you have any familiarity.
Yeah. So, okay, the NES title that most people are familiar with. It's a side-scrolling platformer, really heavy on like jumping over bottomless pits and fighting recurring enemies as they like. We'll get more into this as we talk our way through the gameplay, but the arcade version is more of a beat 'em up style, and the plot is different. I didn't play that one for the plot, to be frank. It's it's a fun ninja fighting, beat 'em up game, like Streets of Rage or your Gauntlet, or not Gauntlet. What's the other one? The Golden Axe. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Wait, so you did play a little bit
I played
of
it as a child. I have not played it in recent memory.
Do you recall, does it have any sort of the same level of cutscene-itude as NES Ninja Gaiden?
Now, this might be a manufactured memory, but I believe if I'm remembering correctly, there was a really kind of like gruesome continue screen if you need to put another quarter in the machine, and it's Ryu Hayabusa. That's the ninja that you play as. And he's like strapped to a sawmill and like the blades like whirring at him. Yeah. But this, in terms of story and plot, I do not recall.
Yeah. But that's not the focus today anyway. So
no, I in general, just before like we start going through this, I don't play these games for the plots.
Right. Which is interesting, because what drew me to Ninja Gaiden as something that I'm sort of curious to revisit and discuss was my memory of the cut scenes, which I will say are fantastic for the time. This is my earliest memory of like cutscene as like real attempt at doing something akin to a action movie or something like that.
Yeah, it's really stylized. It's over dramatic, but in a tonal way that matches the gameplay. If you're playing Ninja Gaiden and it's requiring a lot of like quick reactions and like platform exactitude, and then like to counter that, there's these like deadly serious cut scenes of people just going, huh? What? The doctor?
Yeah, it's very anime meets like American action film, both in style, framing, and the content itself.
Yeah.
Because there's like a ninja who works with CIA special intelligence people to but anyway, I mean the opening cutscene of this it is, I think, will sell almost any kid on this, that like there's these two ninjas in the dead of night running at each other. They jump into the air like with backlit by the moon. They come down, one falls.
It's so like classic.
It's sick, dude.
It's classic cinematography of that, like of the samurai ninja genre. Like this is like, I'm not saying this is like a Kurosawa film or anything, but like it's taking inspiration from these like, you know, Ronin-esque duels where it's just like man and sword are one, and like it's just so dramatic. And this is the late 80s. The world has ninja fever.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was mostly coincidence that we are a little behind on recording this. I was not feeling well last week. So to like, I guess partially to keep up with my Ninja Gaiden studies, I actually finally sat down and watched almost 4 hours of Seven Samurai.
Oh, hell yeah.
Have you ever watched it?
It's one of my favorites.
Oh my God.
Actually, that's the first VHS I ever bought online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everything that you like know and love from modern anime is in that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I that was one of my main takeaways, other than just how fantastic it was. But
unfortunately, there's not a Seven Samurai video game.
Well, I for some reason it popped in my mind. Somebody was recently talking about it. I think it was like another video game podcast mentioning, I think like the game Ghost of Tsushima has a Kurosawa mode that like changes the game into a grainy black and white.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that might be worth both of us exploring sometime soon.
Hey, if it gives us an excuse to talk about like Yojimbo and Sanjuro as well, like because those are the like because Kurosawa's like work relationship with Toshiro Mifune, as like his like that's his guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it created some of the most iconic like images in like samurai period piece cinema. Like it's on par, if not exceeding, like the attention to detail of Kubrick's work.
Yeah. And I mean, like I say that basically to make note of again how those roots of this samurai ninja craze of the 80s and now modern anime, it's like it's all in Seven Samurai, and I'm sure his other samurai films. Like the scene that stood out in Seven Samurai is, oh God, I forget his name. My favorite of the Seven Samurai, the one who, like the young guy is like, oh, he's just a nice man. I want to be his apprentice when this is all over.
Uh-huh.
And he's just like the like cold, like steeled, reserved guy. The opening scene of Ninja Gaiden is like very similar to like his opening scene of like two samurai across a field running at each other, single slash, and the one guy goes down.
Yeah.
It's the exact same sort of framing and setting.
I wish I could remember those characters' names, but I'm not going to try to fake it while it's recording right now.
Yeah.
But I know exactly the scene you're talking about, and he's just cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, that guy is awesome. My last thing I'll say about Seven Samurai is I also realized from it that Old Dirty Bastard watched that movie at some point and said, I'm going to base my entire personality on the drunk samurai.
That's Toshiro Mifune's character.
That guy rocks.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Ninja Gaiden primarily here.
Okay, Josh, what's the plot of Ninja Gaiden?
Okay. So, let me see if I remember. 'Cause the funny thing is, every time a cutscene would come on, I would look up at the like the pixel art and be like, this is really beautiful, the way they like pushed the NES to not even like push it to its limits, but just like the way you can create attention, or not like attention to detail, but like focus and perspective and tone by just like really zooming in and doing close-ups with these like very limited resources was it was like so beautiful that I was just like, I'm not paying attention to the story at all.
It's like when attractive people talk and like you're just like kind of like looking at them, but you're not even hearing what they're saying.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, like I was just staring at like the artwork and how like beautifully stylized and yeah, like pulling from stuff like Kurosawa or whatever.
Sure.
But no, I do know that Ryu Hayabusa, his father, who has a hilarious, very American name that I forget.
I think it's Ken.
Just Ken.
Ken and Ryu. Can't get away from those names.
He was one of the ninjas who goes down in the opening cutscene, right?
It's up for interpretation.
Okay. So, Ryu finds out there's like some conspiracy there. He goes to the streets of New York. Is that the first level, right?
Yeah. The level that most people stopped playing at.
Yeah. Which is, I think I stopped around like midway through level 2, probably when I was younger, but keep going on with the plot. Okay, so is this where he meets Irene right after the first boss?
That's right.
Irene is, I've now learned after playing more Ninja Gaiden and watching the OVA, that's his love interest.
Yeah, but she starts off as like a CIA intelligence gathering, like secret agent lady. And it looks like, I mean, in the first cutscene, it's like, you think that she's just assassinated Ryu?
Yes, which is something they do frequently in the series in these cutscenes.
Yeah. But I mean, the basic plot is that Ryu's father has been missing, presumed dead his entire life, and this like conspiracy concerning like demon statues. It comes into play where if the two statues are combined on buy one get one Tuesdays, they'll
of the full moon or something.
Yeah, and on a leap year. But I mean, it's just like if the bad guys get their way, then the devil is reborn, basically. The evil god.
Yeah, as we jump ahead to, I think it's in the second game, or I'm remembering it from the OVA, they introduced this concept that like there's the dragon ninja and then just like the evil ninja.
Yeah.
And if the evil ninja comes to power, they can wipe out all life.
The Hayabusa family is part of the dragon clan.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like it's the yin and yang. You've got the good god and the evil god, and they're constantly at war. And it's I mean, this story takes you from New York to South America,
which is a cool choice.
It is a cool choice, and because you get to, instead of killing like mongrel like dogs in the street, you're instead fighting like cheetahs. So are cheetahs even in South America? What type of big cats are in South America?
I don't know. I'm not gonna pretend to know
I'm
my
not a
geography.
Zoologist here.
And we do find out that the evil spirit of the evil ninja clan, whatever it is Jakyo. And as we continue through, of course, Jakyo gets resurrected, and it's our responsibility to stop him. I don't know. Maybe we could talk about the ending of one later after we sort of talk about the game itself a little more.
Yeah, I'm more interested in talking about the gameplay than
the
story
gameplay
with this.
is very fascinating. That like there's these beautiful cutscenes, but the gameplay stands out above them still. I mean, I do still want to talk just about the cutscenes conceptually a little bit, that like reiterating that this was like a big deal for 1989.
Sure.
The way that these looked and they're not cinematographic, but they are cinematic.
Cinematic cutscenes.
They're very cinematic. You could see like the like early inklings of like what Hideo Kojima is gonna do in the 90s, and specifically, as we've been, I think I said when we were teasing this game, like I'm interested in it because the art direction in this first one, which means I assume basically designing those cinematics, was done by Masato Kato, who is worked on scenario planning for Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 7, I want to say 6, I think Tactics, but maybe correct me on that if I'm wrong. And then was the story director, I believe, for Chrono Cross. So, like, this is a person who is very fundamental to my childhood.
This is a heavy hitter in terms of, like, taking video games seriously.
Right. And he's credited in this game as Runmaru because they all have silly made-up fake names in the credits, which is a whole other thing to laugh about when you compare that to modern games, where now it's just a 20-minute like running list of names.
Yeah.
Where it used to be, it's like, here's 10 names that we made our team make up because we didn't want other companies to take them from us if they thought the game was good.
Right.
So he did art. He's credited as art director in Ninja Gaiden 1, which I don't have a bunch, like a rich history of like interviews or anything, but I'm going to assume that means like he was the one saying like, I want this to be a very stylized, like influenced by samurai movies.
Mm-hmm.
Let's push what we can do with this graphics engine kind of vibe in those cutscenes, because then I believe he's the director of 2 and 3.
Oh, is that so? That's cool.
I think so. Yeah, and I can double check that. But so that's something that really interested me with Ninja Gaiden, because as a kid, I played it before those other super influential games came out. I only made it through the first 2 or 3 levels of them, but they were like super exciting to see.
Was this like a rental for you, or was this a play at a friend's house game?
It was a rental, borrow, play at friend's house kind of game. I don't remember a specific friend that was like, we're going to go over and play Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
They have it. But like the first 3 levels of this remain extremely familiar to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of like controlling the character of Ryu, like that's what, 99% of this game is just trying to manipulate this sprite to go and do what you need it to do on the screen, which is usually just plowing through, in the case of Ninja Gaiden 1, an endless stream of enemies that are, there's basically like 2 different types of enemies in this game. You've got the sentient ones, and then on a loop sine wave movement ones.
I've pulled up on screen a very good example.
Exactly, the football player.
For some reason, you're just endlessly being barraged by football players, and there are spots where if you just stand on a specific pixel, that enemy is going to regenerate endlessly.
Yes.
Because you have gone into the spot that it is set to trigger.
It's kind of like purgatory.
So it really breaks the ludonarrative dissonance, sort of, because they wouldn't actually have endless people. But it works really well for an action game that they wanted to make incredibly hard.
You've been playing too much metaphor. We've been
Hell yeah. But no, I mean, it really does help with their goal of, they wanted to make sure, as we would do with NES games back then, that people would get their $60 to $100 worth out of this cartridge.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say they went a little too far with this one.
That's course corrected in the sequels. Because this week I played
for the most part.
I played through Ninja Gaiden 1 twice last week, and then I played through 2 and 3 once, because that's all I could handle. I had in-laws.
Yeah.
So I just had to go.
Just dissociated to Ninja
Yes.
Gaiden as much as you could. And on that note, like, what were like, did you master there's some techniques that are very fundamental, I learned.
What was the name of the, like, turbo slash or multi something ninja technique?
There's like a jump slash that I did not learn until I was stuck on the final boss of the first game.
Yeah. The first phase of the final boss is where that really comes in handy.
Yeah, I think it was like I'll call it the second phase, which is we'll probably talk about the final boss quite a bit here, but
That's where I spend most of my
where
time.
it's just kind of flying back and forth and shooting fireballs at you. For whatever reason, when I streamed this game which is how I sort of prepare for the podcast, this is the most like active viewership I've had in this like process of camp video game streams. Like I had a genuine sort of half like cheer squad, half like not like laughing at me, but just be like, dude, just figure this out. Why are you so bad at this? Like sort of crew in my chat.
The peanut gallery.
Yeah, I had a very active peanut gallery, we'll call it. No, it was actually very helpful. They were like trying to teach me how to play the game as I was stuck on the final boss for, I think, legitimately 45 minutes before I gave up the first time. If for whatever reason, somehow, any of them ever find this podcast, I need to apologize because I discovered after I was done playing that there was a major latency issue on my controller.
Really?
Yeah. So like, I play with a Switch Pro controller. It's plugged straight into my computer.
Yeah.
And like, I thought the game just had pretty sticky controls the whole time, like especially jumping off the wall.
Yeah.
Like I could not get the other technique I was getting at is there's like a way to jump up walls without going back and forth.
Yeah.
Which is like crucial at a couple points in some of the stages. Is
that triggered by damage for that to happen? Because I watched a tool assisted speed run of the first game last night just to calm the voices.
Yeah.
And I saw that technique like every chance they got. It's like the back of the character is like smashed against the wall as it like climbs up very unnaturally.
You don't need damage to do it. I just needed less latency in my controller input. So people were telling me to like use it at certain times, and I would just sit there and practice it, and I was like, this feels impossible. Like the like frame you have to trigger to go, like basically you just like you hold away from the wall and jump, and that gets you off a wall, which is already like a very annoying control that I had a lot of frustration with. But then you immediately switch the D-pad back towards the wall, and you'll just gain a little bit of height each time you do that.
Interesting.
So I was practicing this when I was playing it on my emulator with, again, I had a wired Switch Pro controller, so it wasn't over Bluetooth, but I was just like, man, this is really hard. You guys, like, this is really how you do this, you know? And then I revisited the game a few days later on my Switch, because I did not realize until I just opened the NES online thing on Switch a few days later that, oh, Ninja Gaiden's on here.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
And the controls were so much tighter, even over Bluetooth.
Yeah.
I got the wall jump down in about 30 seconds. I just opened the first level and practiced the wall.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then the other thing, the rapid slash technique.
That's what I got that one down.
Yeah, that was less problematic with my emulated version. But like, yeah, you just jump.
Press down.
I guess you hold down on the D-pad, right?
It was just a mix. Like, I mean, for me, it just turns into a button mash. Where it's just like jump down slash. And I instead, like, while you jump, you have about enough time with a normal slash to do about 2 slashes with like the full trajectory of your jump. But in this case, you could do about 4, like rapid fire. And that came very much in handy for the final boss specifically.
Yeah. I learned these techniques after I was playing the game. I went to he's like a YouTuber and streamer who does a lot of speed running. Ryu Car something. I know him from like Mario speed running.
Oh, cool.
But he had like basically a how to Ninja Gaiden video, which was very helpful.
Yeah.
I didn't use it for my playthrough, but it was very helpful to see like, oh, here's how you can actually learn the game on its own terms.
Sure.
He would go through like every difficult jump and explain like, oh, this is how you do it. And some of them are like really cheap. Some of them are like, okay, what you got to do is you walk up to like this pixel and there's this enemy that like you just look at it and you go, any way I do that, I'm just going to get like blasted off the cliff.
Right.
And he's like, so what you do is you just go back to disappear them, and then they won't respawn if you do it just right.
I've noticed that happens a lot with this character that's on the screen right now, the witchy woman at the top.
Yeah.
That's like throwing crucifixes. I don't know.
Like
what's
bloody
going on.
knives or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that was the character I was most reliably able to like cancel out. And I assume that that's like a memory issue for the game. The same way that it's like, okay, here's the spawning point for these enemies to start jumping out. Like, and if you stay there, it'll happen endlessly until until the timer runs out, which became in most platforming games that I have played that have
like the timer's usually a joke.
It's usually just there to make sure you don't like accidentally keep the game on or something. But like in this case, like I would run out of time and then lose a life and have to start the level over several times because like no save state helps you with that. That's something I learned about Ninja Gaiden is that like if you get to a spot and you use a save state but you're running out of time and you have to get to the end of the level before the timer runs up, you're just gonna die and you're going to have to start the level over.
Yeah, it's a little unforgiving for somebody who like wants to take their time and kind of like learn the level and be patient. That dinged me 2 or 3 times just playing through the levels. I'm gonna pull up this. It's at the end of stage 3-2.
This is one of those jumps that everybody has rage quit over.
It's so brutal. It's the end of the stage, and this is the one that Ryukar video like very carefully went through and taught how to do because there's just like almost no way to do it accurately. In my footage that's up, I did it. But I only have 1 bar of life left as I reach the boss, and he instantly kills me.
These are the circumstances under which I fight most bosses using save states, is that I have 1 health. So, I mean, for Josh, like, with playing through this game, I mastered every one of these fights so that I can defeat these bosses without taking any damage.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that, but I felt compelled, and the game didn't, like... Oh, I mean, it made me furious at points. It made me so sad at points. But in the whole, it kept me like engaged. Yeah, and I wanted to do it. And I knew if there was a problem, it's either because the house is cheating or because I just need to draw a better hand. Yeah, no,
I think like the way I played it, again, massive save states and rewinds. Like the stages for me were more frustrating than the bosses. But like when it's like if I would make it to a boss, and I had like enough life, or some of them are just like set up so that you just reset at the boss if you die. So I drop a save state there.
Yeah.
I liked that level of difficulty. That felt to me a little bit like playing something like Elden Ring, where like once you've made it through the dungeon. Which like there will be points along the way to save your progress. And you reach the boss, there's usually like a short run back to the boss, and you can actually just like keep redoing it and learn it properly. Which would be like how this game would be at its best. Unfortunately, the original NES cartridge is not designed that way at all. It is extremely punishing.
Yes.
And requires you to go very far back should you fail.
Ooh, especially at the later stages. Like where if you lose to the final boss, it's going to make you start over the entire stage.
Yeah.
And that is, I don't know how you get good at this game without save states. Like, I mean, of course, I mean, the answer is just through practice, but
through a very special kind of neurodivergence that allows you to have the patience for this kind of thing. On that note about the last stage, rewinding you back so far, did you look into the reasons behind that?
The reasons?
Yeah, no, there's...
I figured it was just like spite for the gamer.
Yes and no. So it was indeed a programming error.
It was an error?
Yeah, but like once the developers saw it, they go, oh, cool. The player will get more value out of it because they'll get to replay the ending more, and it's more challenging this way. And they decided to leave it in.
If we ever scrape the bottom of the barrel and we want to talk about like the Lion King video game, I know that's like the big reason. Like, you know, we made it hard so that people wouldn't just rent it.
Yeah,
and like I think we talked about that still with like Resident Evil back in those. Go back and listen to our series on Resident Evil, where we gripe about how hard video games can be for no reason aside from like malice from the production team. But with Ninja Gaiden, like it's just like if the character wasn't a ninja, I wouldn't feel compelled to to treat be like, oh well, it's my fault because I'm not a true ninja, and like I lack the discipline of a true ninja.
Yeah,
and so it's just like it's a me problem. It's not the game.
That's like the FromSoft difficulty mentality too, like of like skills issue is like what the kids online say.
Yeah.
Like when you complain about how hard those games are, like skills issue, you know. And it is kind of true when the game is fair, like those are. Like those do give you a fair breadth of space to like learn a boss fight. Whereas this is just like it's so punishing in terms of how much work you have to redo every time to like reach the boss again. Which on the note of the final boss of this game, so you know like the NES Online, it'll have those like SP editions.
Yeah.
Where it'll give you sort of like a bonus or whatever, or start you off with power-ups and whatnot.
I played a version of Metroid that had the SP version, and it gave you like all the missiles and all the like energy tanks filled up.
So the SP version of Ninja Gaiden starts you right outside the door of the final boss.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's like the only difference. And it doesn't tell you that when you turn it on.
Weird.
We can end. I feel like it's almost like a segment on the show to critique like the weird decisions of the Nintendo Switch Online emulator things. They're so bizarre. There's no notes that tell you that. And when you do die, it still has the bug that puts you back at level 6-1.
What the fuck is wrong with Nintendo?
That's such an easy thing to fix. If the reason you made this was to make it so people can experience the end of this game, which is like what you're telling me by doing that.
Right.
You can make it so when I die, I go right back to the boss.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
It sounds like it would take somebody like maybe 2 days to program.
Who knows?
I don't know.
They're cutting corners.
Yeah.
With the Switch Online stuff, they are cutting corners with the classic arcade or the classic collections that they're adding. Like we've griped about this. Yeah, we should isolate all of our gripes about Nintendo Switch Online, make a super cut. Maybe we'll get jobs at Nintendo, or they'll send someone to our.
They'll send a cease and desist, more likely.
They'll send a package that's ticking. Okay. I want to talk about the ninja arts, which is basically this is the ammunition for the different weapons or skills that Ryu has access to. It starts off. The most basic weapon is just a straight up shuriken that just goes in one direction on the X axis, and it costs the least amount of ninja arts. I think it only asks for 3 points, whereas the minimum for most of them is 5 to 10. I think it goes up to 10.
Yeah, it's like quite difficult to track all that in your brain. To sort of like keep a glance on how many of those ninja art points you have left up of the screen and be like, okay, so I have this one. So if I'm on the boss, I can use it this many times.
Exactly.
There's a lot of strategy that goes into that that could be very helpful, but is very difficult to like mentally navigate.
And they're not they're quite precious with doling out those like increments of 5 or 10 ninja art pickups that you can get. It's not like in the later games where you can just get kind of loaded up without even trying. In this one, it is very much a commodity.
Yeah, and this is I don't know. Again, this is sort of like something that like FromSoft difficulty TM evolved and made better over time. Of like you're managing the stamina of your build, or you're like your whatever, it depends on the game, like you're basically your MP for like what your special attacks are and like how to use them against a particular boss's patterns and when to use them. Like this is the earliest game I can think of where a lot of the origins of those kinds of mechanics are built in.
Yeah, because it doesn't force specific weapons on you. You can choose what you use to some degree without unless you're plowing through and then you're just like slashing every torch or whatever it is that holds the items, and it just falls on you and you say, oh, okay, I guess I've got this now.
On that note, I know we're mostly talking about Ninja Gaiden 1, but in 2, oh my gosh, I got so frustrated every time I got on accident, because I don't know what's in every little lantern or whatever. I would get the one that only shoots at like a 45-degree angle downward.
Yeah, the fireball.
Like you would lose your. I think for me the most powerful after the spin slash, which the spin slash is like you jump and if you attack, you're basically invincible until you land and will kill everything.
Screw attack.
Yeah,
AKA from Metroid.
Yeah, but it uses like 10 points.
Yeah.
So like you have to really be careful not to attack in midair. But to me, the most useful one after that was like the big shuriken that flies back and forth on screen.
I enjoyed that because you can play it so that it will become a protective aura around you.
That always felt good.
It felt so good because you have to jump at like these little like intervals that like. I mean, it's skill based. It allows you to kind of spam this one use of 5 ninja arts that gives you the equivalent of like 20 to 30 of the like points necessary for the damage that you've done with it. I got to a point while you had those endless football players jumping at you. And I was able to just keep hopping so that the shuriken kept going back and forth and back and forth. And I was just like killing them until I think after it bounces around at least like 10 times, then it disappears. Or it can fly back into you. But it's just a fun like thing to, I guess it feels like an exploit, but it's baked in. It's a fun function.
And then in Ninja Gaiden 2, when you can get 2 shadow ninjas behind you, which don't get wiped out by new powers, then it's really fun because you can have 3 of them flying around.
That's right.
Just wiping out the screen, which made that game much easier for me than this was.
Ninja Gaiden 2, it's fun to watch a speed run of that because they use those shadow ninjas to such effect on boss fights. Like because the ninjas they follow in Ryu's wake and they'll do all the same movements that he does except delayed by a few body lengths. And if you have Ryu jump at the boss that's up in the top right corner, Ryu can get his hits in, and then he lands, and then the second ninja can get his hits in, and then the third, and you can just like, I mean, the speed runs that I saw for Ninja Gaiden 2 specifically with the Shadow Ninja were very entertaining, in the sense that like it's so much more stimulating. Like they dropped that for the third one. There is no Shadow Ninja in Ninja Gaiden 3.
Oh, really?
Which I thought I thought that was kind of a bummer too.
Yeah, that was the coolest change in that one. Because I only played 1 and 2 and then kind of ran out of time and didn't play 3.
Yeah.
But Sean assures me that's the least good. I forget if we were recording yet when you said that.
I enjoyed it the least, although it had some of the most impressive visuals. Ninja Gaiden 3 is a great looking game. And it like really like it does so much with the 8-bit like visual like style that is like it's that 80s like good stuff. It's like the good old days of sprite imagery and like it gets very like horror sci-fi as it goes on.
Interesting.
Which fits more in line with the OVA that we'll be discussing. But yeah, I think if I were to go back and play a Ninja Gaiden after this like extensive tour that I've gone through, I would probably want to replay 1 again, just because it is absolutely the most challenging. And it's I don't know, it's like, people like to have a simple steak, right? They just want the meat and some salt and some pepper maybe and some garlic and some butter.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to like dress it all up the way that they did. Like, now, the Ninja Gaiden 3 at that point, I was like, is this even meat? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Are you talking about the story specifically?
No, the gameplay.
Oh,
like
interesting.
it's oversimplifies. Like you have a lot less recurring loop of enemies like producing, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. I felt like that was a weakness of the first game, but it is also like that's the challenge that brings you back to it.
Yeah, and again, it's like maybe at that point they were like, it doesn't make narrative sense for these guys to keep coming back over and over again. It's like, yeah, but I don't know. It works for your first game. It works for Mega Man. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it's an action game. I'm not here for the story, even though like that's what you're trying to do.
This boss footage that we've got up the boss.
This is the boss of World 3.
They really remind me of Mega
Stage
Man
3.
levels where they have these like these patterns that you just have to learn the patterns and go to the right the right portion, the correct portion of the screen so that you can dodge their attacks and get it. Don't get greedy with trying to put too much damage in on them unless you're a tool assisted speedrunner who can, they kill bosses in like 2 seconds. It's I don't know how much of that's legitimate or if there's like some sort of bug that they were exploiting with it, but
oh yeah, always. I mean, again, there's like the down slash. I'm pretty sure like you can get way more than 4 hits on that.
Yeah.
If you're like, again, tool assisted smashing the B button or whichever one was the attack button.
If I was one with Shadow.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just not a true ninja.
Was there a particular like favorite or least favorite boss? Because I have one that stood out to me as like exceptionally like stupid and cheap. That's other than the final boss rush.
So there's a character in Ninja Gaiden 1 named Mouth.
Okay.
And I was like, what that mouth do? I just wanted to get that joke in. It's in terms of favorite boss, no, not really. I don't enjoy the boss fights in Ninja Gaiden very much. The final boss is just what I spent the most time with. And those 2 jumping frogs, those got me pretty bad. And they're like recurring bosses in the sequels too.
I did not quite understand them. Like, I feel like I just got lucky when I finally beat them. I pulled the footage up. It'll probably reset a few times because like it felt like I'd hit them in the face and they take no damage. Then like I hit it in the back, it takes no damage. Like I couldn't figure out what the hitbox was. And when I did finally beat them, I forget how I did it, but it felt very cheap. It felt like I exploited something and I didn't know what.
I might be crossing a few wires here, but I know in this particular fight, if Ryu stays in the bottom left corner using that pillar as a shield, they're way less likely to at least jump into you, and they will not be able to shoot you with that pink cloud. But I believe they switch off on who can take damage as you play through.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
And it's not broadcast
in any way.
There's no way to really know without just getting proven that this sword is not doing any damage to it. That's like
there's so many things to pay attention to that it's very difficult to notice that.
Yeah.
And there's no feedback when you hit a lot of the bosses.
Right.
There's no like sound or recoil. It's just sort of like you got to watch and see if that box, the enemy health is ticking down.
I feel like the early like Turtles arcade game had the greatest indicator of whether or not you were doing damage in terms of soundscape, where if you hit them, it would make that great like sound. But then if you hit them and you're not
squeak.
And if you hit them and do no damage, it sounds like metal clinking on metal, like clink, 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 clink. And that's what's telling you're not doing any damage here. You're not getting that wonderful feedback.
Yeah, that would have been very helpful in this game.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of the bosses do and some don't. It's kind of inconsistent and a little loosey-goosey. Something that could really be tightened up a little bit. But yeah.
Speaking of tightening up, it was just announced that there's going to be a new Ninja Gaiden 2D platformer.
Oh yeah, shoot! I didn't download the trailer to run here, but no, this is very funny.
This happens to us, doesn't it?
I know we are recording this in mid-December, and I was watching the Game Awards because I have no life. Jeff Keighley's The Game Awards. But anyway, very first thing, as soon as they go live, is this like anime footage of Ryu Hayabusa. I don't know if they like said Ninja Gaiden at that point.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
before, like maybe 10 seconds in the trailer, I'm texting Sean. I go, "Oh my God, there's a new Ninja Gaiden anime being announced at the very beginning of the Game Awards."
That'd be so funny if that's what was happening. It's just like,
yeah.
I mean, we're movers and shakers here at Camp Video Games. We make it happen.
But then as it went on, it turns out it is a reboot of the original like 2D by this company Emu that did the Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge game. Have you checked that out at all?
It looks fun.
I mean, it's like it's pure like nostalgia slop, but it's like lovingly done enough that you're like, oh yeah. I remember this kind of game. It's all right. You know, it's not
That's
like
what the new Power Rangers game looks like as well.
yeah. And they did like another game like that, and now they're doing Ninja Gaiden, and I think it's gonna be out next year. It looks good actually.
Sure, I'll play it.
Like I'd like to play it at some point if it's on the PlayStation membership thing. Sometimes those games go right to there. That's how I played the Ninja Turtles game.
Yeah. You played Shredder's Revenge?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, the funnest thing about that is like the expansion of the character roster. That April is one of the playable
That's
characters.
fun. I like that. Casey Jones.
The rat. I'm
Splinter?
blanking because I'm a grown up. I don't give a crap. But
Master Splinter.
Yeah. It was fine, and I bet this game will be, or at least I hope it's basically this, but cleaning up exactly what we're talking about would be amazing. But still really difficult. I don't remember if they did. There was also a remake of this game, Shadow of the Ninja. Did you ever play that?
I never played that.
That came out this year, which is it's a very Ninja Gaiden like. I don't know which one came out first, but there's a reboot of that I played, and it was like still too difficult for me, like the remake. So I don't know what we have in store for this one, but it was fun. To, like very first thing out the gate at the Game Awards, as you and I just finished playing all this Ninja Gaiden in the last couple weeks. It's like, oh, it's coming back.
Yeah.
Okay, guess decent timing.
Yeah. Oh, to kind of circle back on like my childhood experience with this game. This was one that one of my cousins had. So when we'd visit family, I would play it, over the weekend for like family reunions. We'd like be in West Virginia, and I'd play his copy of Ninja Gaiden. And it was one of those games where it's just like, I just thought like being a ninja would be like a pretty normal job opportunity. Like as like a young
Makes
kid,
it feel very run of the mill.
Like,
Anybody could do this.
I mean, there was so much ninja media. And I guess to our UK listeners, this is not the game title that you are familiar with. In the old UK, it's called Shadow Warriors.
Interesting.
Which I think the British, I think the Queen made it illegal to say ninja. I'm not being facetious here, because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were not called that in the UK either.
That's
They're called
so
like
funny.
Teenage Mutant Hero Warriors or something
Boys.
like that. So yeah, it's either, I think Shadow Warriors is a better title than like, N-word Gaiden.
Yeah. The ninja thing works here because it was so prolific in media at that point.
Sure. Did you ever watch American Ninja?
Is that a movie?
Yeah.
No, I've watched a lot of American Ninja Warrior.
Oh, that's the show.
I wanted to do that when I was younger. And by younger I mean like my late 20s when I was still fit. But like, anyway, no, I've not seen American Ninja.
I'm just trying to think of like late 80s, early 90s.
I mean,
like,
Karate Kid was.
That's not that's
But
not
like,
ninjutsu.
To an American, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Is it to like our idiot brains that are so uncultured? This is exactly the same as the Karate Kid.
Well, what's the actor's name? Is it Mako? The guy that does the voice of Master Roshi, or what am I saying? Master Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, I don't know anything about Avatar.
He was like a prolific Japanese voice actor.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I'm being like completely ignorant if thinking that's the same guy who was Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid. But
Pat Morita?
Oh yeah, no, different people. I'm
Okay.
just damn it, I'm recording this. But
hey, we caught that he was wrong. Stop with your comments. And when we are wrong, keep them nice. Most people have been pretty nice about correcting us.
People have been really great. Thanks for all the nice people that comment. I like those. I like the nice comments. Go back to our Super Mario Brothers discussion. We had some nice engagement from folks that had a lot of corrections and encouraging words. So
we don't pretend to be expert historians at an academic level here.
I am not an expert in terms of the lore of Ninja Gaiden. I just spent like 3 weeks playing the games.
Yeah.
And watching the anime. And
Which,
I read
let's
the
be
first
real, probably more than you did listening. I read some of you.
I read the first 3 chapters of the novelization.
Because speaking back to like when I was streaming, I feel like my viewers were like Ninja Gaiden heads. They knew what was going on.
Yeah,
like, there is a small like cult following for this game somewhere. For whatever reason, like that's one of my most viewed streams for this show.
Yeah, that's cool. But they don't want to be called a community. They want to be called a ninja clan.
Yeah. To all my Ninja Clan heads out there, thank you for helping me through the game.
Did you ever see Three Ninjas?
No.
That was a fun.
That was shortly after this. Yeah.
American kids with a Japanese grandfather teaching them the secrets of ninjutsu and how to defeat bad guys with jelly beans.
But I don't know. There's other things I could still say about Ninja Gaiden, but we could also move on to the OVA at any point. The one boss I did want to talk about.
Who's your favorite boss?
Well, it was the standout, I will say, not necessarily favorite, was the one, I believe it's the stage 5 boss. I'm trying to scrub to the footage. It's set up with a cutscene. He
this
gets
is
a little.
Mouth.
Oh, that's Mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
And you get there, and immediately, immediately you are blasted with undodgeable lightning attacks.
That's fun.
And does this one send you right back to the beginning of the boss, or did I reload?
I never died on this boss, so I couldn't tell you, buddy.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit, to figure out, literally you're just supposed to run at him and just be taking damage and swing as fast as you can.
Yes.
That's the strategy.
I think this is one of the boss fights that restores your health before it starts, because they want you to just kind of this is a
because that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because that's my natural instinct as a true ninja is I go on the offense immediately. I just I rush at him and just start slashing and slashing.
So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm trying to discover strategies as I keep reloading, and none of them work. The only way to beat this boss is just run at him and swing, and just take the damage, take the hits, and it's a race of time.
Yeah.
Like a race of HP drain, basically.
Campers, is it possible to do a no damage run of Ninja Gaiden?
I don't feel like this
is.
boss negates the possibility of that.
Yeah.
I do not know how you could possibly dodge these hits.
Mouth is a cool design.
Love the design.
He's got this big horns and a shield, and he's got Thor lightning power, and it's fun stuff. The character design, Ryu looks awesome. I mean, we should talk about Ryu as a character, quote unquote. Where he a blue mask and the ninja costume, and just always running, only drawing your sword to make an attack and then immediately putting it back.
Yeah.
That's such a cool ninja thing.
Right.
Again, I just love how cool ninjas are.
This harkens back to Kurosawa establishing this in the cultural mindset. Even the Naruto run is straight out of Kurosawa, the ways we think about how a quote unquote ninja moves is all rooted in that stuff. If you pay attention in Seven Samurai, the way they run carefully,
no, yeah.
They like
they're not clunking
they're
around
quiet
in armor
when they're moving.
Yeah.
That like hand at the ready on a sword as you move, like all the and it shows up in this game, which I think for our generation, like back to the character design of Ryu, it's like that's what a ninja was, I think, to a lot of us, aside from the Ninja Turtles with like a headband.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Ninja Turtles as like, okay, I guess they're ninjas, but they're like they're teenagers more than anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because when I think Ninja Gaiden, I don't think like skateboarding and pizza, like like I would with Ninja Turtles, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because you know, Splinter's like he's the stoic. I guess Leonardo embodies the closest thing to like that stoicism of the true ninja.
Mhm.
But okay, let's go back to the plot. Ryu finds out from mouth that his dad is not dead. And basically, this is some Darth Vader stuff. Like you have Luke Skywalker finds out that the lieutenant to the most evil guy in the planet is his dad.
Mhm.
And spoiler, sorry guys. Ryu's dad is not dead, but then he dies at the end anyway.
Mhm.
Redeemed after they destroy the Death Star.
Right. And in this, you do the same, and you get a fight with your dad, which I thought was gonna be the final boss.
I kind of wished it was. I feel like these boss fights, there's like always another like segment to the fight, and like that's I love a good transformation. I love like, you know, seeing the danger increase, but like sometimes, especially when you're just like, I spent like 2 hours trying to beat a boss.
Yeah.
With 1 damage point of health. And then I do it and I'm like, oh, thank God. And like, I just want to stop. And then it's just like, by the way, like, did you know I'm also more powerful now?
Yeah.
Like, oh, God, thank you, I guess. More.
Another anime trope, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't
This isn't even
seen
my final form.
Like a lot of people think of Frieza and it's like, no, it's been around.
It's been around for a while. You know, Kid Koopa.
But my experience with this was I got this first phase I'll say relatively quickly. That I had that red ninja star thing.
Yeah.
I found very helpful in this fight. I am pretty sure this is where I discovered the rapid jump slash.
That's where I felt it was truly necessary.
Because you can get a third of the health down before it attacks.
Yeah.
If you time it just right. But the second phase, oh boy howdy, it is so brutal and punishing. This is technically the spirit of Jakyo, I guess, is the final boss.
Yeah. I always pronounce it as Hakio, but in the anime they say Jakyo too.
Yeah, we're sort of over Americanizing Jakyo in it, but it's something like Jakyo. Anyway,
Jakyo.
So like I'm gonna pull up the like timer on screen here where you can see if you're looking at this, a third of my stream of this game is me trying to beat this phase of this boss.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's so hard. If you don't know the like down slash attack thing, first off, I went through like phases of strategy.
Yeah.
One that I was trying that again, like the real Ninja Gaiden heads in my chat were like, there was a point where they're like, wait, what are you doing? Is like, I went up on the top right.
Yeah.
You can get up
you can stand
on the wall
top.
and stand there.
I
and I was just hiding and trying to slash at him and then jump and dodge fireballs. And I got like, I think a little more than halfway through with that. My next strategy that I tried was to like just really learn the patterns of the fireballs and just like really get good at like dodging and just being patient and waiting for my moment. Of course, you know what happened there. Take a guess. We talked about it already, this problem with the game.
I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now.
The goddamn time ran out.
Oh, the fucking timer? No, I'm so sorry, man.
I was like so in the zone. I was locked in.
Yeah.
Like, I was like talking about on stream. I was like, you guys, I'm so locked in right now. Like this, like I'm in flow state. And And then like I just started hearing the beep, and I was like, no.
That's
Like I just
so
totally
good.
forgot the timer existed.
Oh man.
And I think at that point I gave it like another 10, 15 minutes and gave up. Then I came back to it. I forget if I did it on Switch or not, but I beat it very quickly after I came back a second time.
It's more about,
I'm going to
state
open
of
up my other.
mind.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective.
Hold on a second. I'm going to open up my other file. I don't remember if I did it on Switch or not.
If you get used to losing, you just start doing this like pattern where you're like, oh, well, I got a little bit farther this time, blah, blah, blah. That kind of grind where it's just like, okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work.
Yeah.
And you just start like accepting failure as an option.
So again, I'm pulling up my transport controls, my play pause stuff on purpose. So you can see it. Once I came back to it after a night's sleep and some rest, it took me 11 minutes to finish the rest of the game.
Oh, good for you.
Oh no, I remember what I did. I extreme cheated. I was like, I'm gonna rewind every time I take a hit I consider cheap. That's how I beat it. But on Switch, I was also able to beat it quite quickly. The final boss, does it restore your health in this one?
I don't think it does.
Because that was in 2, that's what stopped me from actually finishing the game. Is I beat the first phase, which is again, it's the same Jacquio, but like he has some different movement patterns and stuff. And then you get like this alien boss at the end. Ninja Gaiden 2 does the same thing.
Does. As does the third, as in just a more, everything's bigger.
Yeah. I feel like this one, it does restore your health because like in 2, I died and I was like, oh, that's fine. It'll put me back and restore my health and give me another shot. No, all the way back to
That's so
stage 7-1 or whatever. And I gave up on that one. I did not beat 2. That was the end of my Ninja Gaiden journey.
Okay, if we've got any like Ninja Gaiden like heads listening right now, I'd love to hear your opinion and yours as well, Josh. I believe the greatest improvement that Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3 have over part 1 is that when you grab any wall, you can climb it.
Yes.
That to me
so much
was
easier.
such a easy quality of life like improvement that I
and like an obvious one.
A very obvious one that like, I mean, it's all about like being quick and movement and like like navigation. And like when you auto grab a wall, if you jump at it and you can't do anything besides just jump the opposite direction that you were trying to go, it's maddening. And it like it turns certain like platforming parts into puzzles where it's like, okay, I need to go to that it's all logic based where it's like, okay, if I have to jump back and forth from wall to wall without being able to climb up or down it, then it turns into like, okay, I guess like, and there's like one segment, I believe it's in World 3, where it's just like, if you have to go the correct route in order to traverse it. And it's just like, okay, like that's not part of the fun of this game.
Yeah, that one was like, that would be an absolute game stopper for me if I did not have save states.
Yeah.
It'll be too much work for me to find the exact spot
I don't
in my footage.
I don't want to relive
like,
it, honestly.
If you've played Ninja Gaiden, you know what we're talking about. It's so wildly difficult, and it's so precise that it is genuinely unfair.
Yeah. So much of the games are all, you play through the 3 games and they all run on the same basic, hardware, and the engine's all very similar. They're really, it was one after the other. It was like 89, 90, 91, like boom, boom, boom. And then the anime came out 91 as well.
It's very similar, like, vibe to Tomb Raider, where they're like, just got to keep cranking these out.
You've
got 1 year to do the next one.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing, just new levels.
Just new levels. And it's fine. I like that kind of consistency out of a series without, the storylines, again, like I'm not playing Ninja Gaiden for the story. Like I don't care about the hero's journey of Ryu Hayabusa. Like sorry.
It's fine. It's just, it's very run of the mill. You've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
In the game format.
And that's why I even started reading the novelization of the first Ninja Gaiden game, and it just did not compel me to go past chapter 3. And life is too short to read books that you don't want to finish.
Yeah.
And so props to the team for making it, like, because that's cool. I have a podcast about video game adaptations,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean that I love them all equally.
Yeah.
And this one, in terms of like the gameplay for Ninja Gaiden, like I like if. Oh, we should mention the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo,
The
remake, or what's the other word we use for that?
remaster.
Because if anything, it's in some ways it's a downgrade because you can't do the multi/slash jump in that anymore.
Yeah.
But I know that's more of like that's an exploit of like a programming feature than it really is
Right.
like, you know, something that was like baked into the game.
Yeah.
But I thought that was cool that they released the entire trilogy on a single cartridge. That was like a huge deal to get that game. Like
Yeah.
I think that was 95 when that came out.
Yeah, and it makes like the same mistakes as like some remasters do this, where they overuse the developments of the technology. Like I only played it for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Same.
And interestingly, when I opened the NES Ninja Gaiden at first, I found the music like a little grating, but then like after a few minutes, it really just dials in.
Oh my god. I
And
adore
yeah.
the soundtrack.
Yeah, and the Super Nintendo, like on the Super Nintendo's like sound chip, was immediately just like, like it just didn't feel right.
It
Like
takes,
it's like, ooh, you lost something by doing this, and graphically, I felt the same a little bit.
it's a little too clean.
Yeah,
And I mean, yeah, the Ninja Gaiden, like I love 8-bit like pixel
Mhm.
graphics. I love the way it looks. I mean, it transports me back.
Yeah,
But it also like it's an intriguing, limited art form that you can explore in interesting ways. And like the way that they do the cinematic cutscenes for Ninja Gaiden in the 8-bit style, it's taking full advantage of just the stark, bright colors and like the very. It's not overly detailed, but it's got these big character like that work for that, and it just doesn't like they remaster the scenes in the 16-bit style, and it's just like it wasn't made for that. It was made for 8-bit, and it was like made perfectly in that way. But I mean the soundtrack for Ninja Gaiden, the series as a whole, because I can't differentiate it. It's all just mud in my brain right now. But I love the music.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
really locks
soundtrack
you
I
in.
would really listen to while driving like very fast.
yeah. But I don't know. That's I think you sort of teed up talking about the OVA pretty well.
Yeah.
Talking about like sort of like what's good about, or not good so much about the game story. And you tried the novel. So we'll talk about the OVA here.
Yeah. Okay, campers, the Ninja Gaiden anime OVA is free on YouTube. Just search those words and you can watch it too. And that's the only way that I've ever watched. I didn't know about its existence until last year or so. And I mean, it was a Japan exclusive release. It didn't get English dub, so it's subtitled. Sorry guys, you gotta read.
Which we should note, I'm 99% certain this is just a fan translation.
Yeah.
So how faithful it is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah,
or the Japanese speaker.
which might explain a bit of our befuddlement onto like what I watched it twice this week just because I enjoy action anime about ninja stuff, like not even because I felt an obligation to really understand it. I just liked what was happening on the screen. It's cool when ninjas kill things. Like it's universally cool. Everyone likes it. Besides the people getting killed, but they're probably like, nice. Like getting killed by a ninja, pretty cool way to die. Honestly, if I were to like have a choice, maybe getting killed by a ninja.
Yeah.
Pretty good way.
You know, if they do it like fast, you know, cut me completely in half kind of vibe.
Slice my
so
head
I don't even
off.
feel it. Like, you hit me with that if that's how I gotta go.
Sword straight through the heart.
Yeah.
Like rock.
But on that note, I'm just gonna say out the gate, this is one of my favorite adaptations we've watched for this
Hell,
show.
I'm so happy to hear that.
This is what I want in an adaptation.
Yeah. 50 minutes long, baby.
One, the length and what they do in that runtime is concise. It does exactly what it needs to do. And there's just like through every detail of the production, there's like a point of view. There's a decision being made about like, what are we doing and why are we doing this? Like, these people, for whatever reason, really wanted to bring the world of Ninja Gaiden to life, and in a very stylized way. Like, they chose a style and a tone and executed it, instead of just being like, hey, here's the thing from the game.
Yeah, no, that's very well put. I completely understand what you mean when saying that. It took the speed and the danger of the enemies to a degree that's like, oh, this is what it would be like if we saw this happening in real time. Like, where there's just like this little guy. I mean, Ryu, he's like not a big tough guy. I mean, that's the part. I think that's one of the appeal of the ninja is that it's not brute force necessarily. It's more intelligence, agility, quicker mind than a bigger muscle, which I think is a cool design choice. But like, it takes the characters and it says, okay, like when he's not on an adventure, he's running a Japanese like
a cultural store in New York City.
Yeah, with
like where you go to
Irene.
Yeah. So I don't know what to say. Like, I actually loved a lot about this.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm like finding myself wishing like that instead of remaking these games over and over again, I'm like, do just like a remaster and localization of this.
That'd be cool.
Like, because all we have is this really like low grade fan translation on YouTube.
Yeah, campers, if you know more about this, please let us know in the comments if there's some good resources to get some information on this, because I truly like you say, Josh, like I really loved this. As I would say I'm a casual fan of Ninja Gaiden the games, and I'm a sincere fan of this animation, and I'd love to talk with other people about this too.
It's like that very adult like 80s 90s anime style, like the more popular point of reference for people will be like Akira. It's very much in that style, a very like mature in the sense of like it's ultra violent in a way that makes sense for the tone of the game, even if like the game itself you don't have quite that visual detail.
There's no blood that I can remember in Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it definitely is in this.
If there's a dude slashing somebody with a katana, then there's going to be a lot of blood.
There will be blood. Your milkshake will be drank.
Did you going back to the Seven Samurai discussion, did you watch any other Kurosawa like samurai films?
No.
Okay.
The 4 hours of that was all I could squeeze in the weeks that we've been leading up to this, but
it's just funny.
I definitely want to. They're like most of them are on Criterion.
Yeah, I would super duper recommend watching Yojimbo next.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites, and then it's got a direct sequel in the way of Sanjuro.
Yeah, but it's definitely now like one of my all-time favorite films.
Yeah, Rashomon's a weird one. I've got a great book about Rashomon. If you're interested in that, I'll give it to you.
Nice.
It's just kind of like the exploration of a story with an unreliable narrator, and it was like trying to decipher the real events as they happened. It's an interesting style of storytelling that's like it actively engages the audience, and it requires you to like have an opinion in order to have watched. It's interesting, but that's not the case with Ninja Gaiden. Like in this one, this is some more of that good. Just like, hey, like let's just go on a little adventure with a ninja and his American CIA girlfriend.
Yeah,
who
I'm so obsessed with the Americanization of this like Ninja Gaiden like world, and then how they put it into this anime.
Yeah.
Like because we've seen in the games he keeps running into like American military assets, like CIA agents, special intelligence agents, and I understood this to be like this is basically like Ninja Gaiden 4.
That's exactly right. That's how I interpret it as well. And again, campers, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, except that it takes place like all in Manhattan, and they really like double down on this. He is a expat to America from Japan with this like ninja past, and he's now connected to all these American deep state military people to like go on these special ops and like it's such stupid world building, and I love that they commit to it.
Yeah, they commit to it. That's a good understanding of it, because if you did this half-heartedly, it would come off as condescending, and that is not the case. Like, this is a deadly serious movie about a ninja fighting to stop the resurrection of an evil god through biotechnology
that explores women's feelings. I was like laughing throughout my first viewing of this. I was like, this movie walks up to the line of passing the Bechdel test multiple times.
Sure.
But then it'll like break one rule. Like, one of the early scenes is like, after we've been introduced to Irene, we're in a cafe just with her and a friend talking.
Yeah, that's Sarah. Sarah's a news reporter.
Yeah, which the Bechdel test is like, are there women in it having a conversation that's not about a man? They fail the not about a man
that's
part.
Right.
But like, then we're like, now we're in Sarah's story as it continues. Like, there's all these different like little lives being lived in the world of Ninja Gaiden. It's not just about this ninja running towards like his, one goal of saving the kingdom, like in the Mario movie we watched.
I want to see if you agree with me on this. Is Ryu not the main character of Ninja Gaiden?
It's like an ensemble thing in this movie.
Yeah,
is like what they really establish.
So Ryu and Irene, they're running a shop together. They've got this like what is the word, like unrequited love, like kind of like he's like.
I very much thought they were partners, like a romantic partnership at this point. The first game ends with like them being
kiss.
Like, we can't be in love.
Yeah,
we've got to separate.
It's too dangerous for you to be near me. I'm a ninja.
Yeah.
There's just like, I mean, the first conversation that Sarah and Irene have is like, Irene doesn't know how Ryu feels about her.
Oh, okay. I wasn't paying close enough attention. That's on me.
It's really just about it's just about like Sarah then goes, she's like, oh well, I'll have Robert, my detective boyfriend, ask Ryu, because they're both friends, how he feels about Irene, and then I'll let you know once Robert tells me what Ryu tells. Sarah's just trying to like get things moving. She's basically like, hey, like I'm gonna intercede here, and like it's gonna let's get the ball rolling on your relationship, essentially. And that's how we meet. So yeah, Sarah is a television news reporter. She's like the empowered, like she's the one who's like, I don't even want to talk about this. Like, let's do something else. Let's talk about anything besides boys. She's almost like representing that Bechdel like response, where it's like, okay, like blah blah blah. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Like you're worth it. Like, let's talk about something else now. And then while she's drinking beer and smoking cigarettes in public.
That's another thing I love. Like, I love about this movie. It is an adult film. Like, there's no condescension of any sort. Just blasting cigs and drinking on screen.
There's a lot of drinking in this movie. The detectives, you've got Robert and Jeff.
Yeah.
Robert is the boyfriend of Sarah, and Jeff is he looks like the Cowboy Bebop guy.
Oh, Jet. He's very Jet coded.
Yes. Jet from Cowboy Bebop.
But also Robert is introduced in Ninja Gaiden 2. Is
that the CIA guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like the CIA guy who's like becomes your buddy who runs alongside you and is like, I'm not as powerful as you, but I can still help.
Yeah.
And like,
love that.
He and this what was the other guy's name?
Jeff
serve that same role in this movie.
Yeah, it's great. Because they're like, we're just normal dudes. Yeah. You're a ninja. You're special. Like, there's something magical about this ninja guy that we are friends with. And so there's like there's a lot of relationship drama in Ninja Gaiden, the animated feature. Like, there's Robert and Sarah are also like not ready to really discuss their feelings about each other. And like at the end of the movie, of course, everyone's like, oh, let's get married. We all love each other. We killed the devil. Let's get married. And Jeff, on the other hand, is he is my absolute favorite character. I'm like choking up thinking about Jeff.
These guys rock.
These guys are so awesome. But Jeff is like he's a detective. He's partners with Robert in maybe more ways than one, and he throughout the movie is like getting scared easily by like he has this big revelation as they're like fighting off all these monsters with like submachine guns and shotguns. Robert and Jeff is that like Jeff is like, okay, I never told you, but I actually was like a commando or a mercenary, and like now that we're back to like killing stuff, like I'm really having a good time. And like he's like I just had to pretend to be a coward because I thought that would like keep me and the people around me safe. But now that I've got a gun in my hands, I feel like $1,000,000. And like I'm so glad that we're doing this together.
Yeah.
there's like, I mean, there's even like talks of like, and again, I would love to find an official translation because I don't know if he's saying what I think he's saying. Like from the translation, he's got this like
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's what I texted it to you last night.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's just like this is an empowered bromance where it's just like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like Jeff is realizing like after they've shot down all these monsters, he's like, look, I'm shaking. I'm so happy right now. And Robert in response, he says, everybody's like that. We like fighting, we like alcohol, and we like women. Some of us even like men. and we all work on the parts that cause trouble and somehow get along with the world.
And for anybody not watching our YouTube version of this, like they're doing this as they are casually walking down a hallway, violently murdering monsters with like machine guns.
It's so
and they're
cool.
just like so nonchalantly having this conversation. It's the most dudes rock moment I've ever seen in an anime. It's so awesome.
It's a beautiful moment.
And then like capping off with, and some of us like men.
Some of us like dudes, man.
Like that's where I want to know, like, it's a fan translation.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know the degree to which like they're having fun with it. If that's in the original and someone, if you like, Japanese, like I would love to know if that's in the original.
That's a big request for the comments.
So because that would be so awesome. That is like dudes effing rock.
Yeah, absolutely. So the plot of this is that there's a scientist named Ned Friedman, and he developed a cure for cancer. And Sarah, she's the TV reporter, and she goes to a press junction that Ned Friedman has, and all these reporters are like, does the cure for cancer work? And he just stands there, doesn't say a word, and just like mean mugs them. So all the like reporters like are like, oh, okie. She then goes and talks with a different professor who was like a colleague of Ned Friedman's named Professor Bucky Wise, which again, is that the name that they chose for him? Professor Bucky Wise. And there's just, I mean, this is where the plot can like kind of lose me because there's very little ninja stuff going on right now.
Yeah, I didn't care about any of this like background stuff. I was like, I get the broad strokes. Yeah. I don't need the details.
If anything, this is serving as inspiration for like Resident Evil stuff, where it's about like a biotech corporation is like under the guise of pharmaceutical manufacturer, but they're actually making monsters. And so in Ninja Gaiden 3, Ryu is transported to a different dimension that I believe it's like the dimension opened up when they'd killed Jakio in the first game, and the villain of that game, I think his name was Clancy. Again, all these American names, they get so lost on me because in the first one there's like Dr. Miller and like all these people. Sure, Irene, she sticks out, but I guess because of the events of the previous Ninja Gaiden games, in this one, they still have access to that interdimensional energy that can then imbue its users with superpowers in order to then resurrect the Dark God and bring about a new era of evolved humanity. That's, I think, what is the enemies, the villainous plot of this game. It's pretty par for the course for a Ninja Gaiden game, where it's just like, oh, they want to resurrect the devil or whatever the equivalent is.
Always.
And there's also like a kidnapped little girl in some part of the thing where, again, this is where the story is kind of like, okay, I think she was a hostage to get
Jacchio is trapped in her or vice versa or something.
I don't know, man. I just know it's really cool when Ryu slashes things with his sword and when Jeff and Robert like almost kiss and then they shoot monsters. I like that stuff.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
Okay, so Irene gets kidnapped by Ned Friedman, and so Robert and Jeff and Sarah and Ryu all decide to storm the castle with a crate full of automatic weapons.
Yeah. Well, Sarah.
What happens to Sarah? She doesn't get to go.
She asks to come.
Yeah.
And they say it'll be too dangerous for a woman, as you do in a 90s action movie.
Yeah.
And then she you think she's gonna come because she tears her dress.
It's pretty hot.
They're
like,
no,
you can't run in that dress, and then she rips it all the way up to her thigh.
I can maneuver, and they do this really, really funny thing where they've left the argument kind of open. So you think maybe she's coming with you. Cut to establishing shot of who's going, and it's Jeff and Robert
riding two on a motorcycle.
Two on a motorcycle, very distinct shot of hands around.
Yeah,
just two boys on a motorcycle.
And
hugging.
some of us like men.
So,
Jeff, what's poking in my back right now? That better be a shotgun.
I kind of wonder if some of this queer coding is on purpose. Look at the angle of the camera, looking down up at his hands, just lovingly embracing his haunches.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. I love it.
And they tied Sarah up to a chair.
Yeah,
they gagged her for some reason too. I don't know why they gagged her.
Because she wouldn't stop yapping. Women be talking.
And some of us like men.
Does she end up there somehow?
She does. After they kill the devil, she then shows up and punches Robert, and then they get married.
Yeah, good for her.
She punches him or slaps him or something. She's like, I wanted to go. I said I wanted to play action hero.
Yeah.
And
Robert goes, yes, I love women. I want to marry you.
I think we should get married, and not the other thing not that.
Yeah, I would love a queer action film of just two buddies where it's there's a will they won't they throughout all the violent action.
Ooh, what is that? There's got to be some good ones,
but that it's a little less subtextual,
Yeah,
still not openly just staring at the audience going we're gay, but there's just a little bit of it's clearly a gay metaphor, this comes close.
Yeah.
But there's just not quite enough to tell if it's on purpose or not.
Predator does a pretty good job with that. Is that Carl Weathers and Arnold?
The obvious answer to this is actually
Lethal Weapon?
Well, it's not an action movie. My partner and I just watched Challengers a few weeks ago.
I'm not familiar.
It's a tennis movie. Sort of a dramedy about these three people whose lives keep bouncing off of each other through the sub-pro tennis circuit.
Okay.
And there's a very will they won't they between the two male characters who were bunk partners in tennis academy in high school.
Tennis academy.
Yeah. It's great. It's I want an action movie version of that.
Yeah.
Is what I'm realizing.
I'm into that.
Something between this and that.
Yeah. So it turns out Professor Bucky Wise is the actual villain.
Yeah,
he's been manipulating Ned Freeman because he kidnapped Ned Freeman's daughter, I think. And he's the new Jacchio.
Yeah.
And he loses to Ryu after getting some help from his friends. I think Irene and Robert shoot at the monster as he's sword fighting it on the rooftop. It's all pretty cool. I mean, it's cool action. This is well done action. We talked about this with Final Fantasy VII. What was the OVA's title? That was another one that had fun, like
Last Order.
Last Order.
Yeah.
Go back to our conversation on that one, Campers. That's a banger of a OVA.
I like that one.
I love talking about OVAs based on video games.
Yeah, it's almost like Japanese productions take this stuff more seriously.
Yeah.
Because those seem to be the ones that I like.
Yeah, less cynical.
Yeah, less cynical cash grab and more like, no, we actually like the world that was built around this property.
Yeah. This is a cool looking monster that Ryu's fighting. What is even going on with that guy? He's just got like an exposed spine that's like armor like, and he's got
he's not at all like the Jakio I saw in Ninja Gaiden 1 or 2.
No, Jakio in that was like a sexy vampire.
He's a big green skeleton monster ogre boy.
Yeah. This is a cool looking guy. It's cool to see a little ninja like fighting a big dude. I mean, like going back to like my comparison to Resident Evil, like he kind of resembles like a tyrant, one of the like final bosses that you fight in Resident Evil.
Oh yeah.
Luckily Ryu has like a magical sword. It's the Dragon Clan's sword, and I think the the plots of the games are like hard for me to kind of like sort through.
Yeah.
But the second game is about how special his sword is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called the Sword of the Dragon.
The Sword of Chaos is the name of the game, and I think his is
you.
like the Sword of the Dragon, or I don't know, something like that.
The third one's the Ancient Ship of Doom, or something along those lines. It's all fun. It's like if I had if I had played these games like more regularly as a kid, I think the story would be a lot more naturalistic to me. But in the speed exposure that I had to this, where it's just like in like 2 weeks, I think I played through these games a couple times. The first one a couple times, and then the second and third one just the once, and watched the movie a couple times, and I don't pay the closest attention. I don't have the best memory, and my brain's just not the most the respectable thing in the world.
Well, I think that speaks more to like just that these movies are doing the basically just anime tropes of like the beats are the same every time of the game, of all three games and the movie.
Yeah.
Of like, oh no, the great evil is about to be resurrected.
Yep.
And then Ryu has to stop it.
I love when he wins.
It's like Monster of the Week-esque in that regard.
Yeah.
And that's why the details don't matter.
Yeah.
It's the style that makes Ninja Gaiden good and cool,
That's the thesis right there, man.
Yeah.
Good job. Oh boy. Ryu kills evil, and now he's allowed to be in love with Irene. That's really what happens.
Which I wanted to mention earlier that there's a scene like, I don't know, halfway through the movie where he like white fangs Irene. Are you familiar with that? It's a joke in an episode of New Girl.
Like the Jack London.
Yeah. So one of the characters, he tells like the woman that he's in love with, he does this scene where he's like, I don't want to see you anymore.
Oh.
Go on, get, shoo.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Are you white fanging me?"
I think of Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, same thing.
I don't love you anymore. Are you white fanging me? Did you ever watch
Ryu does that to Irene at a certain point in this movie? And is that how the first game ends? Did we say that earlier?
They kiss at the end.
I thought then like they say like, but we can't continue because I'm a ninja and you're a CIA agent. I don't remember. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't
Again,
care.
these details don't matter.
Yeah.
But like that's his attitude, it seems like all the time, is like, I gotta be a lone wolf.
There was I believe it was a Canadian made television series also titled White Fang that it used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it was anymore, but it just centered around like this family that moved to like a rural area, and the mom or their dad is a veterinarian, and they get a dog named White Fang, and then it's just really just kind of like a town like sitcom basically with dogs in it.
Mhm.
But the intro to the show has this dog jumping through a window, like crashing through like, you know, some probably sugar glass for the recording of it. But
I just did had the vision of that in the opening of this kind of show. This is very good.
and my wife and I, anytime in like a movie when someone jumps through a window, we always go, "White Fang!"
Yeah.
It's actually not a good show. It's one of those so bad it's good types of shows.
Yeah.
Where I think you have to suffer from irony poisoning in order to enjoy it.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about the Ninja Gaiden OVA, we leave a little sequel bait at the end. That the little girl who was kidnapped or trapped inside Jakyo finds a piece of his skeleton, which means he can come back. Something. I don't think we ever got one, but they put it in there. Why not? You always got to leave the door open.
Oh, for sure.
But
this seems like a proof of concept for a show.
Almost, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you could do this like every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was saying earlier. Anyway, I kind of want to wrap up our Ninja Gaiden discussion. Partially, it's approaching my lunchtime. But
Over at the old mess hall here at Kid Video Games.
I gotta head to the mess hall. They're about to close up. But overall, I don't know. I'm happy to have revisited this series. It like there was more there than I remember. And I sent you a text after I played it, and I pointed out like, you know, it's worth noting that James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerds review, which I have quite a bit of distaste for at this like level of maturity
Different
in my
era.
life.
Different era.
It's just a different thing.
That was like probably what, 2008 he made that review?
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah, around then.
Yeah.
2008 to 2011. Different time, and like it's not my tone. That has like 8 million to 10 million views,
Yeah.
and the original his review of Ninja Gaiden, the original game sold 6 million copies. So like his review is the cultural touch point of Ninja Gaiden for
Oof.
most people at this point.
At least in the West.
Yeah, in the West for sure. And like I know we're not going to get nearly that many listens, but it's like it's nice to go back and sort of like correct the record a little bit without like diarrhea jokes every 3 seconds. That like, yeah, is it a brutal, unfair game that I hope this remake cleans some things up? Yes, but like there's also a lot of foundational stuff there that was really cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have been playing platform action video games my entire life, and this was one on the like the checklist of like I finally had what I think in my heart was a reason to pay attention enough to beat the trilogy, and I don't feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah,
like,
no, I had
that.
a really good time. I mean, especially with people were hanging out and like sort of cheering me on.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I just know that it's not as hard as I thought it would be, but it's also unbelievably hard in a lot of cases. But I think with modern tools at our disposal for gaming, it that's what makes this worth revisiting at this point in my life.
Its greatest difficulty is in things that like would be cleaned up in a modern version of something like this with quality of life, of like understanding that like, no, the player needs an opportunity to learn this really difficult thing. So making them do so much work to revisit it just once is unfair. Like developers understand that now.
Yeah.
And I envision this reboot being a little different, but we'll find out in 9 or 10 months. So
I'm very intrigued to see where they take this series, because there's that like reboot trilogy for PlayStation 2 era, I think, or Xbox. I don't remember.
I didn't play it, but it was notably
a single
difficult.
lick of those.
That was the era where like I was a gamer light.
Yeah.
Partially like I was trying to back away from video games. It's like, I'm 20 something. I'm trying to get laid.
Yep.
I'm trying to do like cool musician stuff.
Oh yeah. I'm living that rock star lifestyle.
But also I was like broke. So I only had my PS2 from high school and a DS for like 10 years.
Yeah. Huh. Well, luckily we have our Nintendo Entertainment System, chock full of Ninja Gaiden games.
Yep.
Campers, give that one a try if you have the Nintendo Switch Online. Let us know what you think about the Ninja Gaiden series. What's your favorite one in them? I think, I'm gonna still go back to 1 if I were to play any of them again.
Yeah.
But I have to really emphasize, like, the visuals get really cool once they get to 3, and they do some fun parallax scrolling, and like they even have like stuff in the foreground at certain points, which is really,
there's a little bit of that in 2. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But that's enough about from us about
yeah.
Ninja
What do you
Gaiden.
got? What do you got cleansing your palate this week? Anything good?
So I restarted a game of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, interesting.
And it's based directly on our talks, just because, like, in previous episodes I mentioned I just read Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, and that got me thinking about the Western genre. And I mean, it's funny for you to mention watching Seven Samurai, because that got remade as The Magnificent Seven as a Western film, just as Yojimbo got remade as A Fistful of Dollars. And I mean, the samurai and the cowboy are forever intertwined.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never completed the main story of that game. So I wanted to go back to the simpler times.
Maybe I should start Ghosts of Tsushima alongside of the Red Dead replay of the sort of the dichotomy of these two archetypes of men.
you play Ghost of Tsushima, I'll play Red Dead Redemption, and then you watch Seven Samurai, and I'll watch The Magnificent Seven, and we'll try to have one conversation about all of that. No, I don't want to do that. What are you playing?
Speaking of archetypes, Metaphor ReFantazio is finally out of my system. I published a 50-minute review on the Carl's Manager YouTube page. Should you happen to be in that Venn diagram of Ninja Gaiden fans who listen to podcasts about it and want to watch video reviews of Metaphor ReFantazio, good God.
It's going to be great, because I'm not talking at all in that one. They'll love that.
It's basically this, but without Sean.
Yeah,
for
so
50 minutes.
Take that as you will.
and a lot more work in the video editing instead of me just hitting a video switcher. But I also squeezed in. I finished Pentiment, which I talked about. Absolute banger. It's hard to talk about without like spoiling, but that's
the Scribe mystery game.
Yeah. Pentiment is a 16th century scribe. Like, I'll just say solving mysteries in a small town.
Cool. But
it's funny to play that on the back of Metaphor ReFantazio, because it's like a 3-act thing, and like each act sort of focuses on a metaphor of like sort of a real world, like, progressive struggle that's happening in modern times, and like makes it feel really real to 16th century. So like the first act, some of the conflict is based around the fact that like people in this small village are starting to learn about Martin Luther.
Oh,
and like that's really, really bad. Similar for like the power structure of the abbey that is like running the town. Similar to like in modern times, how just like the natural just progression of quote unquote wokeness. It's like, it's not actually a threat to anybody except people who are powerful. You know? Like, and then the second act, there's like a peasant, like organized uprising. They're basically trying to like unionize the peasants, and the abbey is trying to shut it down. It's so good. And the art is beautiful. Anyway, yeah, that's what I've been doing.
And that's from the guy who made Fallout New Vegas, right?
Yeah.
So like the story's going to be on point.
Yeah. And he's like he's just a very thoughtful designer, because like he's not like super online, but he's just very open to like interviews and stuff, and just like really likes to talk about how he thinks about game development.
Cool.
Which leaves me like one other thing I want to add here, and maybe I'll try to download it, is I watched the Game Awards this week, and they have Game of the Years given out by whoever won the year before, kind of like the Oscars do. So the guy who gave it out was the director from Larian Studios of Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
I forget his name. I apologize. But he gave this like really, really like, it's really cheesy to say. It's like a really good speech as he was like leading up to the announcement of like what makes a game of the year. And it was like this very sort of like anti-corporate pro-worker stance on game development of like, I don't know. I kind of want to see if I can clip it and put it in at the end of this episode. It was really good. It was really well stated. I was like, oh, there are still some people who care about this.
They actually also know which game is going to win next year, the year after, and the year after. Now, how do I know this? Well, an oracle told me. She said, change is coming. It's a modern oracle, so they made me sign an NDA, but I trust all of you. I know you can keep a secret. You will never leak it. The oracle told me that the game of the year 2025 was going to be made by a studio who found the formula to make it up here on stage. It's stupidly simple, but somehow it keeps on getting lost. Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They created it because it hadn't been created before. They didn't make it to increase market share. They didn't make it to serve as a brand. They didn't have to meet arbitrary sales targets or fear being laid off if they didn't meet those targets. And furthermore, the people in charge forbade them from cramming the game with anything whose only purpose was to increase revenue and didn't serve the game design. They didn't treat their developers like numbers on a spreadsheet. They didn't treat their players as users to exploit. And they didn't make decisions they knew were short-sighted and function of a bonus or politics. They knew that if you put the game and the team first, the revenue will follow. They were driven by idealism and wanted players to have fun. And they realized that if the developers didn't have fun, nobody was going to have any fun. They understood the value of respect, that if they treated their developers and players well, those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned. But above all, they cared about their game because they loved games. It's really that simple, said the oracle.
Anyway,
I like nice stuff. Speaking of nice stuff, it's been nice talking about stuff with you, buddy.
And there might still be some meatballs at the mess hall.
That's it, campers. We're good. Thank you for listening, and please be sure to like and subscribe and give us a recommendation on another good video game adaptation that you think is worthy of discussion. If you haven't, give a listen to, we got a lot of episodes out here. If you want to spend some time with us, you can go back, listen to the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda animated TV series. We got the Star Fox stuff, we got Donkey Kong, we got Super Mario, we got Resident Evil, we got Final Fantasy VII in a big way. Lots of stuff. We have fun here at Camp Video Games. I just kind of give you my cover letter here. So I'm done. Goodbye.
Yeah. See y'all.
If you'd like to write to us, send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.